Alright, here it is. The most custom gun I own. From top to bottom, nearly every part came from a different company. It's also my first AR chambered in 223 Wylde, and it runs flawlessly. As always, the build list is in the description, and everything is linked in my kit on my website, gunmanusa.com. Also, please help me to be able to make more videos like this by subscribing. Alright, from tip to butt here, the muzzle device is a Surefire Warcomp because I fell for the SOCOM 300 SPS last year. I went with the 300 SPS so I could run the same can on both this gun and my 300 Blackout. One day I'll grab a dedicated 5.56 223 can, but for now, I don't mind going back and forth. I really can't say enough good things about the SOCOM. Tried and true, it's an incredible can. Side note on that, because I really don't talk about this often, but I should. Suppressors should not be regulated, and the ATF should have no say whether or not to enact tyrannic infringements placed on our rights. What they've been doing lately is coming up with opinions and rules and pushing them through as law, which isn't how we do things in America. We go through Congress with checks and balances, and that's the way it should be. Now, moving on to lights. If you're new to lights, it can be pretty confusing to build one, so I'll make a full video on this one day, or you can just copy this build. I went with an Arisaka 600 series body with the Malkoff EX2T, which has the furthest throw due to its 500 lumen, 55,000 candela beam. The tail cap is just a Surefire UE. The mount is an Arisaka inline M-LOK mount. The button is a Mod Light mod button, and I got the 4.5 inch cable, and holding the button at a slant is the HRF ramp, which helps me find the button to keep pressure easier. This is an incredible light, and so far I'm beyond satisfied with its performance, but you will pay a price for the quality, and it's worth it in my opinion. I do have both an Olight Odin, and comparing it to this, there is a clear winner on brightness, but I may need to put these head to head so you can figure out which one's right for you. My backup irons are the MBUS Pro offsets from Magpul. I wanted something as a quick solution for close quarters without having to adjust my optic zoom. So far they are stupid expensive, only would be used barely ever. The bipod is from Magpul, actually a must-have in my opinion for shooting longer distances. It's really a great tool to have, it's super light, well built, and no issues so far. I love its ability to pan and tilt as needed so you can manipulate your shot without changing the position of the feet. Super helpful. Holding my sling is a Strike Industries Link Angled QD mount. I love these, never had an issue with them, and I run them on all my builds. The sling itself is a Blue Force Gear padded sling in multicam black. Honestly, it's a great sling, but for the price, I think there are better options out there. Still a high quality sling, I just think there are other options. The foregrip is from Railscales. It's called the Anchor. Incredible build quality, fantastic grip. I love the design, and it just adds a unique look to the build, which I love. Overall, it's actually just a very comfortable hand stop. The grip on the left side is also from Railscales. This is the G10 XOS Honeycomb 4 slot, and I'm a huge fan. They are seriously the only grips out there that I feel like are worth the money. I have the burn-proof gear rail wrap if things get hot, and these are just awesome to have in general. It just keeps the gas and carbon buildup off your hands. The upper itself is fully custom. The barrel is the Balistic Advantage 16-inch stainless steel Hansen Premium Series chambered in 223 Wylde. This barrel is incredible so far, very accurate, and for those of you who are new to different calipers, 223 Wylde is designed to shoot both 5.56 and 223 as effectively as possible. The gas tube is from Spikes Tactical, and it's the mid-length Melanite version. It's great so far, no issues. The Handguard is Midwest Industries Combat Rail, super light, M-LOK everywhere, an absolute beast so far. It also has anti-walk built into the frame, so the way it connects to your receiver makes it so there's no possible way that your handguard can rotate, which is something that is actually pretty important to me. Paired with the handguard perfectly, the upper receiver is silencerco's SCO15, which has so many great features to it. I did make a video about this, so make sure you go and watch that, but again, the build quality is top shelf. Precision machined from billet, 7075 aluminum, and finished in Type 3 hard coat anodize. It's just an incredibly well built, well coated upper that's both strong and corrosion resistant. I love the look, and so far it fit perfectly with the build, especially with very tight tolerances to my lower, which I'll talk about later. The bolt carrier group is Sharp's XPB, which I have only good things to say about. I also made a short video about it, which you should definitely watch, but again, it's made from S7 tool steel, which is insanely strong and retains lubricants really well. And their DLC is just incredible. Definitely better than nickel boron in my opinion. This bolt carrier group is likely the only one I'll run moving forward because of the quality and features it brings for such a reasonable reasonable price. Very reliable. I'm a huge fan. On top here I have the Vortex Strike Eagle 1-8, and I absolutely love this thing. Very inexpensive, well-built optic. Vortex is great, no problems there. I have been looking at maybe moving to an EOTech, but I think that's more in the future so I can work on other builds for the channel. Holding the Vortex we have Unity's LPVO 30mm scope mount. Best on the market in my opinion. They're a very well-researched company, well-built product, it's the perfect height, and they have custom options like adding an offset red dot. I'm honestly pretty loyal to Unity for their build quality and the designs. I always run the X2 Jackal charging handle. These are the best charging handles on the market in my opinion. I love them, I run them on all my builds. I do have a full video on these charging handles, so feel free to check that out. Inside the buffer I'm running Geissele's Super 42 spring with an H1 buffer, and let me tell you guys, this thing runs crazy smooth. I can definitely recommend this in any AR build you're working on, though they do say to stay away from the spring if you're building a 300 blackout. The spring itself is designed to last longer, and it completely removes the annoying spring vibrations or the twang heard and felt by the shooter through the buttstock. And I can definitely confirm all of those things are true. It's a much better shooting experience overall. The lower, of course, is Radian's ADAC receiver, which is insanely expensive but fully ambidextrous and comes with an incredibly precise build quality, anti-walk pins, and their famous Radian Talon, which I run on almost all my builds. This lower has incredibly tight tolerances, which means there's just no movement anywhere, which makes it feel almost indestructible. All of the buttons feel extremely smooth, both mag release buttons are fantastic, and the size, placement, and quality of everything is just superior to anything I've ever used. The Radian Talon is the best safety selector hands down. The only selector comparable that I've tried is TriggerTech's selector. It looks and feels a lot like the Talon, but it's a little bit sharper. I'll make sure to touch on that when I'm reviewing my 300 blackout. Speaking of TriggerTech, the trigger is a TriggerTech Diamond model capable of adjusting to an incredible 1.5 pound pull weight. I'm 100% loyal to TriggerTech as I believe they make the best triggers on the market. I also made a video on this trigger highlighting the best parts about them, so make sure you check that out. If you've ever shot this trigger, then you know. Just listen to this. I honestly do wish that you could just feel this reset. It's unbelievable. There's zero take up, the break is perfectly crisp, and the reset is just beautiful. And definitely go check out the full unboxing and review of this trigger. It's an absolute beast. I don't talk about it enough in the range portion of this video, but when I stopped it down to the 1.5 pound pull, I've never experienced shooting an AR with that kind of pull weight. It is just the coolest thing being able to have an insanely light trigger on an AR like this. And it's still so controllable. The wall is still super secure. The reset feels all the same. I have no idea how they did it. There's literally just magic going on in this box. I do always run Magpul K2 Plus grips. They fit my hand great, and I love the rubber texture. Perfect for the cold or the heat. Plus it has a little compartment for snacks or a spare round. You never know. But I just keep my TriggerTech tools inside. My buffer tube is from 2A Armament, and this thing is super high quality and has a great design. I was using their full end plate and castle nut kit, but for some reason my QD always slipped out of their end plate, so I think mine just had a milling issues. It was maybe a little too big, so I had to go grab a new end plate from Primary Weapon Systems, and now everything is golden. It was strange. I'd never had an issue with any of 2A Armament stuff, only this end plate situation, but I mean, easy fix. And I'm pretty confident because they're such a good company, you probably won't run into that issue. Last, the stock is from Magpul. It's the MOESL, and so far I really love it. It's relatively light, it's easy to maneuver and adjust. Overall, it's a great stock. One issue I did face was while I was laying prone attempting to achieve my goal of 1 MOA group at 100 yards. It just wasn't very comfortable for obvious reasons, so I think I'll add some kind of a pad when I'm shooting longer distances, but I think that covers it. Oh, and I always run PMags, the windowed version, and I usually give all mine a little bit of stipple. I do want to show you what kind of groupings I can get at 100 yards, so let's switch over to the range. Before we do that, I do want to preface this with a huge disclaimer. I am 100% a beginner when it comes to distance over 50 yards. Even 50 yards was pushing it for me. All of my training up to this point has been at 25 to 50 yards. I want you guys to understand I'm very new to the industry in general, so with all that in mind, here's what I was able to achieve with very little training and cheap Frontier 55 grain 5.56 NATO rounds traveling at 3240 feet per second. Just random range ammo. Nothing special. Welcome to the range. We're gonna go over a 50 yard and 100 yard target just to see what kind of MOA I can get. I'm hoping for 1 MOA. Even though I have little experience shooting long range, I should be able to hit, hopefully, the target. So let's switch over to shooter's view so you can see kind of what we're shooting at. So this is range day number 2. We have the same target set up, one at 50 yards, the other at 100 yards, and we're trying to get a 1 MOA grouping at both 50 and 100 yards. Yesterday was using TriggerTech's trigger at a 4.5 pound pole, and I'm gonna see if the 1.5 pound pole makes a difference. So you'll be able to see kind of what an amateur would shoot like with a build like this. See if we can make the 1 MOA. And we're back. As somebody who has never accurately shot over 50 yards, I think it's safe to say the build did most of the work. This AR for me was designed ultimately to be reliable and ready to take on whatever situation I'm in, whether that's short or longer distance. It's lightweight, which makes it ideal to run and gun, and the barrel length allows me to achieve high velocity effective hits at a distance. My final thoughts are, this build wouldn't be what it is without the barrel, the trigger, the bolt carrier group, and the lower receiver. Honestly, I love the whole thing, but those are the key components to me that make this such a reliable and effective build. My next review will be on my 300 Blackout. I'm just waiting for a couple more parts to come back into stock before I finish the build. This one's going to be a very expensive video, and I will see you guys in the next one.